today. I put glasses on, but this thing is not the easiest thing. So today's value education lesson is resolving conflicts non-violently. Non-violently. A basic component of value education. It encompasses the skills necessary for conflict resolution. Active listening, which we have talked about, didn't we? Meditation, oh, we certainly talked about that. Creative solutions and alternative solutions. Conflict resolution allows for constructive exchange to occur. When people discuss their differences and work through them, the stage is set for a positive change to occur. Now, when we say non-violent way, I don't necessarily mean violence in terms of coming to blows. It could be that people are just arguing loudly. You know, this is my point, this is your point, yada yada, you're not coming together. You're sort of at opposite ends, and everybody's getting angry. And the angrier that somebody gets, then the less productive the outcome. Why? Because the emotions cloud the mind. The emotions cloud the mind. And no positive outcome, or there's very little chance of a positive outcome when the emotions are high. Now, what do? If all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation where there's an escalated emotional charge to the conversation? Well, one way, and I found it very useful, is to simply stop for a while and just say to the other person, look, we're all charged up right now. Let's walk away from this for a few minutes and then come back and discuss it when that emotional charge has settled down a bit. Because it's very difficult to discuss something intelligently when the emotions are running high. So best to cut it off right there for a few moments. Say, look, let's discuss this a little later when we can both settle down a little bit. That's the real intelligent thing to do. Now, when you come back and re-engage, what do? Well, remember we talked about that technique called active listening, where you say something to someone, and then you say, now, can you tell me what I just said? You want to make sure that you know that they know what you're trying to get across. So the first thing in conflict resolution is understanding clearly. Understanding the other's position. And in conflict resolution, listening is critical. Listening with respect. You may vehemently disagree. Vehemently is strongly disagree. But you don't show that in an emotional way. You listen, you hear them out. And then you go back to them and say, this is what I heard you say. Tell me if I'm correct. And then you, instead of them asking you to tell them, you just come and say, this is what I heard. Is that correct? Very, very powerful. Because it does a couple of things. It lets the other person know that you care about what they said. You do care about their opinion because you're telling them back what you believe they told you. They have an opportunity to correct you. You know, no, not quite. So you know that the information you're getting is accurate. You really understand their position. So whilst you're doing that that means that you have shown a level of respect for that person and their ideas. That goes a long way to diffuse the emotional charge in a discussion. Meditation. Well, we talked about that, didn't we? That when we're calmer, we have a less opportunity to let our emotions get out of control. That's very important. Because if we don't have control over our emotions, if we're always amped up, right? Just tense all the time. That's what amped up means, tense. Then it's too easy for us to let that emotional charge rise up and take over. So that's why meditation is an excellent technique to begin creating the habit of relaxation, the habit of quietness. And that begins to also permeate or go through us. So when we talk to someone whom we disagree with, we are less likely to inject a lot of emotion. Because as soon as emotions come into the conversation, the usefulness of that conversation degenerates to a point of being not only useless, but harmful. Listen carefully to this stuff. Listen carefully. Now, when we are able to discuss a topic calmly, we know what that person said, and then they need to allow you to state your position. So when you say, this is what I heard, is that correct? And they say yes. Then you say, now here is what I think about this particular situation. So now you're going to share your position, recognizing that you need to keep your voice neutral and not amped up and nervous, because that nervousness gets contagious. Okay? So always kind of examine your emotional state when you're communicating. You know, am I in control of my emotions? Can I say clearly what I mean and what I want to communicate to this other person? So you ask yourself those questions. And in the asking, that gives you a sense of introspection or looking within. And when that happens, automatically things settle down. When things get out of control is when we're totally outward focused. Outward focused. We almost demand that the other understand us when no, they may not. But at least you are able to share each other's points and understand each other. So what that can lead to is building a shared solution. Building a shared solution. Now that we know each other's position, we can come up with, well, what about this? And then you let the other person, do you have any ideas? And they would say, well, what about that? Then what you can do is you can combine those two ideas in a way that will be a creative solution that you both contributed. Both contributed. That, in certain circles, is called a win-win. It's a win-win, where both parties win. Both parties get what they need. If it's ever a win-lose or lose-win, ultimately it doesn't work because somebody's going to walk away unhappy. You look to try to give the person what they need and at the same time give what you need. Come to a consensus agreement. Come to a mutual agreement of how to solve the problem. Now, you may not have thought of it that way, but if you take the time and you show respect and you make sure that the communication is clear, you have a much better opportunity to think of a creative solution that you both share. Okay, does that make sense? It's very important because conflict is disruptive, it's emotionally draining, and it produces no good outcome because then you're just harsh energies are exchanged, and that doesn't lead to any positive outcome. Nobody learns anything. You just get hurt or frustrated. So when you operate in a conflict situation in this manner, there is a much higher probability that the goal of becoming more unified with your conflict partner is possible. But it is necessary that both participate. And don't look for the other person to start. Say, well, that person has to show this to me before I do that. You lost already. You lost already. Take the initiative. You be the peacemaker. You be the logical, rational one. Always take that first step because what? Because you become stronger. You become more resilient. You don't let your ego run your life. Because if your ego runs your life, there's going to be nothing but chaos. The ego sometimes can be your friend or it can be your worst enemy. Me, 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 me. That's the ego. It's all about me. It's all about what I need, what I want to do. It's a selfish me focus. When you can be solid in yourself without constantly having to have your ego reinforced, you don't need to. You're perfect just the way you are. And if you step back from that me, me, me attitude, and then we turn that into we attitude, that's when you can see good things happen. That's when production comes through. That's when creative solutions come out. Because creative solutions cannot punch through that me attitude. It just can't. Because me is small and self-centered. And that self-centered is not in a good way. Self-centered is everybody and everything must conform to my views, my needs, my wants. That leads to disaster. Because nobody likes a person who basically makes them feel small. Usually, a person who is very ego-focused on what they need, what they want, is very insecure. They don't have a good self-image. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to boost their self-image by pushing someone else down. It's classic, and it's the absolute truth. So recognize when you are talking about someone rather than to them, look at yourself. Why am I doing this? Why am I talking that person down, no matter in what context, whether it's intelligence, money, looks, clothing, this, that, the other? Why am I trying to push them down? Am I that insecure in myself? See? You have all the strength you need. You don't have to be anything but what you are, and that is good enough. Look at yourself as a little sliver of divine energy moving through the universe. What could ever be wrong with that when viewed from that perspective? You don't need to be the top of the list. You don't have to have the fanciest clothes so people admire you, because that's all false. It's all an illusion. It's just an illusion. It's pretending. And that pretending clouds our vision, clouds our judgment. And when our judgment is clouded, we suffer. That's the genesis of suffering, is ego attachment. We want something, we need something, we're holding on. And as such, the universe may say, I don't care, you're not getting it. So what do? We get angry, we get frustrated, we shake our fist at God and the universe. Why are you doing this to me? No, it's not doing it to you, it's doing it for you. Remember that. When tough times happen, there's a lesson in there somewhere. Find the lesson and get through it. If you let go of those expectations of the ego, where is there to be angry? Where is there to be sad or unhappy? You are what you are. You're not what you can acquire. That's just an illusion. It comes and it goes. And when we hold on to those things past their need, that's what suffering is. Well, why am I sick? Why don't I have money? Why am I not going to these fancy places? If you were meant to go to those fancy places, if you were meant to have those beautiful clothes or whatever, you would have them. Maybe, just maybe, there's something out there trying to get you to look in another direction. And if you're smart, you'll find out what that is. Because when you do, the suffering, the sadness, the frustration leaves. It can't exist. Suffering, anxiety can only exist within us if we're holding on to some idea, something that has no real use in our life to move us forward, to broaden our horizons, our perspectives. So look at that. If you're feeling uncomfortable inside, examine why. Why do I feel bad? You say, well, this person treated me badly. They used to be my friend, and now they're not my friend anymore. Okay? Maybe it's time to let go. Maybe it's time to let go. Move on. You never know what's around the next corner. But if you're trying to hold on to something, the more frustrated and the more anxious you become. If you can let go of that and move in another direction, that frustration, that sadness disappears, doesn't it? If we let go of this, what is there to be sad about? We manufactured it. We have a little sadness factory in here. Lord only knows why we do this to ourselves, but we do. So learn to look within yourself. If you're sad or you're frustrated or you're angry, find out what is sticking you. Find out. If you look, you'll find it. And let it go. When you let it go, that discomfort also goes. Enhances commitment. Enhances commitment. When people share in the solution, then both are committed to making that solution work. Because you both agreed to it. You both respected the other's position. Right? Another benefit of conflict resolution is it enhances commitment between the conflict partners. Working through conflict with others unites the conflict partners. Interesting. So when you respect someone, you try to understand their position, right? You try to understand what their needs are. And they give that same back to you. You're both not only committed to the solution, but you're united now in a common cause. You're united in a common cause. Now, instead of an adversary, listen up, you created a friend. Instead of an adversary, you created a friend. And like I said, don't expect anyone to take that first step. You do. See what happens. There will be times when, in all good faith, you try to go through this active listening exercise and to understand the other person, trying to give them what they need. And on occasion, they will not reciprocate. They will not give you that same respect. Let's face it, in life, there are just some stubborn people who are jerks. Life has them. In that case, further discussion is just going to breed more conflict. If the person refuses to budge, if they do not take your olive branch, as it were, or try to come with a peaceful settlement to the dispute. Some people just, it's not in their wiring. That doesn't mean they're bad. It simply means their perspective is very narrow and they're stuck. And there are times when we're going to be stuck. You don't necessarily have to think bad of them, but in that case, if you've done your best, you've given it an honest try, then your best option now is to let it go. Don't stand there and argue. It ain't going to be any better. Just let it go. Walk away. You know, I don't know what else to do, because certainly trying to force the situation doesn't work. It just escalates and escalates. That's what's happening in the world today with all these wars. People don't talk to each other. People don't respect each other. People are not trying to communicate. They're just trying to say, my way or die. My way or die. Stay away from those people like poison. Because nothing but more chaos and sadness can ensue. Don't try to change them, because they don't want to be changed. They don't want to be changed. They've got some nucleus of hate and misunderstanding inside them that they will not let go of. And their only avenue to express that is through violence. Don't go there. Stay away from things like that. It will come to no good. After you have tried, you'll know if that other person is willing to explore a creative and nonviolent solution to the conflict. You'll know. If they are not willing, then for goodness sakes, just go away. You know, it's a real simple thing. Your feet are not nailed to the floor, and you've given it your best shot. Hasn't worked, just leave. Because if you believe that just because you're bigger, stronger, whatever, you can impose your will on another, guess what? You have now become the jerk. Just a bigger one. So, any questions on conflict resolution, nonviolent conflict resolution? Did what I say seem to make sense? Seem to click in here as something that could work? Try it. Try it. What do you got to lose? Other than maybe a sore jaw or black eye, you know, or upset stomach from all the conflict and arguing. So just give it a try. It gets us to a point of being more flexible in how we respond to situations. Gives us more options. That's what we want, more options. We want to keep our house clean. We can't control somebody else's, but we can control ours. That's what you have to understand. Keep yourself clean. Don't say, well, this person, da-da-da-da-da-da. No, that's foolishness. Don't expect people to agree with you. Don't expect people to do what you want all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. But you always have the option of simply not engaging. That is your option. Not engaging. Your foot is not nailed to the floor. Turn around and go away. Refuse the conflict. Just refuse it. Okay, CK, you're up.